And I have a question. How is it that when you have a black mom and a black dad, you can create a biracial daughter with a dark-skinned brother? And I think that it's sad because it's a book that actually talked about colorism, just to use someone who's benefiting from colorism. Amandla, you need to sit down and I don't even know where you need to go, girl. I don't even know where you need to stop applying for roles. Amandla, it's almost like Amandla is the dark skin representation that we have. And at some point, y'all are going to skew color so much that we're going to think that that is black womanhood. That is dark skin womanhood.
Sometimes it don't make no sense. Does it really have to? There is nothing I can say.
Hi, welcome to Mayowa's World. Hi y'all, my name is Mayowa, and on my platform I talk about colorism, featureism, texturism, and black erasure. So there's a book called Children of Blood and Bones, which has now been turned into a movie. And yesterday the cast of who will be in the film was released. I just feel like I had to make a video talking about this because this has to do with black erasure and dark skin erasure. And don't worry if you haven't read the book, I'm going to do a quick synopsis and just get the key parts to drive what I'm trying to say. Yo, I was so mad about this casting that I went for a run. I'm not even a runner. I literally went for a run. And you know it was bad because I went for a run without a sports bra. I was just flapping in the wind. Like that's how worked up it made me feel. And it made me feel very worked up simply because I really enjoyed the book. I thought this was a really good book. I really connected to the story. And so just seeing dark skin erasure happen and black erasure happen in a book that was so obviously and so clearly about black people is very upsetting. So Children of Blood and Bones is a story that follows a girl called Zelly, who is a part of a class system called the Magi people, and she's fighting to restore back the magic of the Magi people. On the way, she becomes good friends with a princess who is rebelling against her royal family because her royal family is very corrupt. And one of the reasons why I really enjoyed the story of Children of Blood and Bones was because it was very obviously a story that paid attention to colorism. When it comes to books, so many books miss the mark when it comes to acknowledging colorism or even having dark-skinned characters. And in the book, they had dark-skinned characters. It was very intentional to make Zelly a dark-skinned girl, and they talked about how she had silver hair. In the book, her complexion was described as divine ebony, and there was a lot of emphasis around her being a deep dark-skinned girl. And Zelly's best friend, Amari, was also described as someone who was experiencing colorism and also experiencing anti-fatness. For context of this book is set in Nigeria. In the very opening page, they have a map of Nigeria and different cities in Nigeria. So it's set in Lagos, a real place. So the story is dealing within an already established spiritual practice called Ifa, which is Yoruba spirituality. So they have a lot of Yoruba motives and Yoruba language inside of the book. Amari in the book was a curvy girl who was experiencing colorism within her family. She was told that she was too dark to be a part of the monarchy class. I'll put a clip up of the exact book description describing this. So on page 36 of Children of Blood and Bones, it says, "Mother's voice breaks into my thoughts, pulling my focus back. Have I mentioned how regal you look today? I bite my tongue and drain the rest of my tea. Though mother says regal, the word lighter hides behind her lips. As I peek at Samara from behind my cup, I'm struck by her new, soft brown complexion. You're too kind, Your Majesty." Samara looks down at her dress in false modesty, soothing non-existent wrinkles. "You must share your beauty regimen with Amari." Mother places a cold hand on my shoulder, fingers light against my dark copper skin. She lounges in the garden so often, she's beginning to look like a farmhand. Like she doesn't coat me with powder before this very luncheon began, cursing the way my complexion makes the nobility gossip that she slept with a servant. And this is the character that Amandlastenberg is playing. Yep, you guessed it, Amandlastenberg, our dark-skinned representation. Amandla is half black and half white. She is a light-skinned biracial girl, and she is playing a character who is experiencing colorism. So the reason I'm very upset when it comes to the casting of Children of Blood and Bones is because they have absolutely no issue finding dark-skinned men to play in the movie. And when it comes to the women, they are all going to be on the lighter spectrum and mixed race. And I have a question. How is it that when you have a black mom and a black dad, you can create a biracial daughter? How many movies and films have we seen where that combination has happened? It is such a common thing. And then the gag is they will have a brother who is dark skinned. So you can't say, oh, it's genetics. Some people can turn out mixed race. No, because if that's the case, the brother should be the same complexion. And in the book, the brother and the sister were of similar complexions. An example of when that happened is in KC Undercover, which had Zendaya playing the sister. This person was the brother. Another example is the TV series Greenleaf, who has this person playing the sister and this person playing the brother. Another example is My Wife and Kids, which has a mixed race girl playing the daughter and a dark-skinned boy playing the brother. Another example is the book The Sun Is Also Stars, which has this person who's mixed race playing the daughter, this person playing the brother. And I can just keep going of how this is a trope. And another one is now going to be Children of Blood and Bones. Regina King is playing the mother of Amandla, and this actor Chiwetel Ejiofor is the person playing the father. And I know Hollywood is going to try that trick where they just use really low lighting so you can't tell that Amandla is mixed race. But why not just cast people who are actually dark skinned? Because y'all have no issue finding deep dark skinned women and dark skinned women when it comes to playing slave movies. But why is it that in fantasy we are not included? People would rather see dark skin on men and light skin on women. When it comes to gender roles, we assume that dark skinned people are stronger because of anti-blackness. And so a lot of times you'll see there is an ample amount of dark-skinned men who have representation in media. But when it comes to dark-skinned women, we can see it's obviously a different case. And when it came to this film, the reason that I was excited for the film was that I was thinking this could be a time to give a deep dark-skinned woman an opportunity to be in a film like Children of Blood and Bones. And from an African perspective, there are so many deep dark-skinned Nigerian, West African girls who can play this role. So many deep dark-skinned actresses. And if we can factor in that colorism is a form of oppression, then we can understand that deep dark-skinned actresses will have it the hardest, which is why it is very hard to name deep dark-skinned actresses who are in mainstream. But when it comes to naming deep dark-skinned actors or men, there are many. So just seeing that this film played into the same trope that erases dark-skinned women and black women is something that is really upsetting. But what upsets me even more, and this is when I'm gonna drag Amandla, is the way that I feel like she's so performative. She released a statement where she was saying that she is very mindful to not take roles written for dark-skinned women because colorism was something that she could acknowledge. She was also the same person who unprovoked stated that she decided to turn down the role or she decided to not audition or turn down the role for Black Panther because she felt like it would have been an important movie for Black people. She's the same person who said that. And I just think that reeks of performativeness, because here you are taking a role that is actually written for someone who is affected by colorism, someone whose family is saying that they wish she was lighter. And so that is like the colorism end of the disappointment of this film. But it's also disappointing when it comes to the African perspective, the continental Nigerian perspective. This is actually set in a place that they've called Nigeria. It is not an abstract place. Like it has the word Lagos, which is a real city, right? But so you have a movie that's set in Nigeria. You have a city called Lagos, which is a real city. But you don't want to cast anybody who's a continental African, someone who's actually from Nigeria, like from like living there. And I say that too, as somebody who's a Nigerian American person, it is so important to have representation of Nigerian actors in Nigeria. If you're going to make a movie about Nigeria, it's just a bit strange to have nobody who's a continental African. And then they said that they had an open casting where people could have applied. And they were having open casting in Nigeria, but the roles of the main characters were obviously filled, and it just feels like that was a PR stunt to get people to feel like they have an opportunity to be in the role. And they say that they're going to have Nigerians be background actors, but what does that even look like, that you have Nigerians who are typically deep dark skin and dark skinned people working for a cast that has a mixed race person and still has dark skinned people who are on the lighter spectrum? And the person playing Zelly is called Thuso Mbendu. Mbendu. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but she is someone who is dark skinned, and she's someone who's dark skinned probably in the same way that I am dark skinned. But I still feel like that role, when I read the book, seemed like it should be done by somebody who is deep dark skinned. Even the cover of the book seemed very intentional to depict a deep dark skinned person. I'm thinking someone who's in the same complexion range of an Allergic or another Nigerian actress who is deep dark skin. The fact that I can't even think of that many deep dark skin people just shows how sad like it is when it comes to Hollywood. Like the darkest actress I can name is Lupita, and I know that people get darker than her. So like this is what I mean, is that our shade range and how we perceive Nigeria or how we perceive Blackness is so limited when it comes to women. We can be introduced to so many men who are deep dark skinned and see the shade range of men, but it's not given the same space for dark skinned women, and that's just something that's so exhausting. I also think it's upsetting too, because to have a Nigerian story, Nigeria is one of the places that has skin bleaching that happens. And the people who do it the most are usually going to be women. And it's because women feel like they cannot be dark skinned, that it is dangerous, it is not safe, they will not have opportunities to be dark skinned. Colorism functions differently in Nigeria, and it feels very overwhelming and very severe. So I just think this could have been a story that could really have made someone deep dark skin feel like they are beautiful, feel like they have space, and that they are powerful. This could have been a really strong storyline if you had actually included dark-skinned people in the main characters who are girls. You had no issue finding the boys to be dark-skinned. You have one light-skinned man who is still a black man in the film. But when it comes to the girls, you're having a sister who's mixed race with a brother who's fully black. Like, I hate this. Another critique I heard about this film is you would think that a film that has Yoruba in it, you would have people who can speak Yoruba to act in the movie, because Yoruba is not an easy language. It's a tonal language, which means that if you say the same word in a different tone, it can mean a different word. And I think that this accent would be harder for people to try to do. And since it's a real country, you're going to hear that it doesn't sound exactly right, because I feel like people mock African accents a lot, and they make it seem like there's just one African accent, and there's so many different ethnic groups within Nigeria that all have different accents. And it could be a more authentic film when you have someone who actually is from there and can speak it in a way that evokes power. Black Panther was set in a fictional place. Nobody knew where in Africa it was. You didn't know if it was in Central Africa, Southern Africa, or West Africa. It was ambiguous in that way. So when you had actors who were American and they were doing these accents and stuff, it's not a real place. So you don't have that same critique of it being like, well, that doesn't sound like a Nigerian accent or a South African accent. You're not going to have that same critique because it had a lot of ambiguity, right? And that is why Black Panther was powerful. And Black Panther also had so many dark-skinned women. I feel like the movie Black Panther, when it first came out, felt like you could see an awakening of people becoming more prideful in being black. And when there were dark-skinned women who would have a shaved head, they would often be like, oh, you look like you're in the Black Panther. And there was some kind of like admiration towards people who had who were perceived as black all the time. I remember they were saying that they were inspired by Grace Jones. Like there was an element of trying to be intentional about having dark-skinned women in powerful positions and around. And if that film was to have had Amandla in it, it would change the vibe. It would just change the vibe. It becomes like every other movie that is made, where they intentionally take out the dark-skinned girl. It's like a constant wound and exhaustion. And I feel the worst for young girls and young people who really identified with this book, because this was supposed to be a coming of age young story. And just to see that, and yet again, they have failed dark-skinned girls, deep dark-skinned girls, yet again, it's just so frustrating. And this is not the first time this has happened, because Amandla played in the movie The Hate You Give, and in the book it was a dark-skinned person that was on the cover, and Amandla was the person who they had casted, and her brother was a black person. And it's similar to The Children of Blood and Bones, where you will have a dark-skinned person, a deep dark-skinned person on the cover. You know that sells. Having a deep dark-skinned person on the cover of books, on the cover of Resistance, on the idea of fighting, when it comes to fiction, You guys love to use dark-skinned people. You love to use dark-skinned people as the image of strength. Dark-skinned women particularly as the ones who save the day, as the ones who work the hardest. But when it comes to actually casting dark-skinned women, you don't want to do that. You would rather get a mixed race person to help your numbers at the expense of the integrity of the book. I know I've gone in like so much about it, but it's just so sad. I don't even know how else to explain it. When you constantly see the erasure of dark-skinned women nonstop and the lightening of women, this is what fuels skin lightening. This is literally the mentality that fuels skin lightening, because we are made to feel like light-skinned people, like femininity is beholden of only light-skinned people. Maybe the issue is when Hollywood takes a hold of these stories. Maybe that's the problem. But to see this get so like abstracted is so bad. And people could notice that when, what was it, in the Green Lantern, when they used Aaron Pierre to talk about how, instead of a dark-skinned man, I saw so many men talk about how offensive that is when it deals with colorism. There were so many people who were really aware of that and cognizant about that when it comes to men. Mind you, there are so many movies, Hollywood movies of Supermen. There's so many Hollywood movies that have dark-skinned men in it. Dark-skinned men are not like invisible when it comes to Hollywood, but they were still upset about Green Lantern because of the story. So why is it that people can't get upset about Children of Blood and Bones when the cover is a deep dark-skinned girl? You can't play in my face. So I don't know. I'm not happy. I don't think this is a good move. I think this was really bad. I think this cheapens the integrity. And I think that it's sad because it's a book that actually talked about colorism, just to use someone who's benefiting from colorism. Amanda, you need to sit down and I don't even know where you need to go, girl. I don't even know where you need to stop applying for roles. Amanda, it's almost like Amanda is the dark skin representation that we have. And at some point, y'all are going to skew color so much that we're going to think that that is black womanhood. That is dark skin womanhood. The look today was actually inspired by Children of Blood and Bones. It was inspired of like, I was trying to do a white eye, the white look, because that's how much I liked the book. That's how much I really cared about it. I just thought it was so imaginative. And I know it doesn't come out for a couple years, but my God, I'm not happy. I am not happy. But anyway, get into the makeup look. Yeah, get into the makeup look. Yeah, I wish I could show you the whole outfit. No, I don't think it's appropriate. But yes, let me know what you think. Let me know if you felt upset about this. And the erasure of dark-skinned women has got to stop. It has really, really got to stop. Like, it's actually destroying people. It's destroying people's mental health. So, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye!